Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2286. We continue our celebration of the La Jolla Concours d'Elegance. It takes place April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in my hometown, beautiful La Jolla, California, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. You can learn more, and I hope you join me by going to lajollaconcours.com to get your tickets. I'll see you there. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Lodi, California, with a very special friend and returning guest, Wayne Craig. Wayne, welcome back to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
I am, Mark. Even though I'm not looking forward to electric cars, I still love clutches.
I know. I've had a lot of guests on the show in the last year in the EV world, in the battery world, and every time I say that, I have to say, well, I guess we won't have a clutch today because they don't exist in the EV world. But, it's one of those things that's kind of coming, and it's gonna get here anyway. So I guess we have to find a way to maybe embrace it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I prefer hybrid race cars.
I know you do. Very cool. Well, before we get started here, I always ask my guests this question. You've heard it before, but I'm going to ask you again. What's one little thing that most people don't know about Wayne Craig? And I know something that's coming up.
Well, you sort of let the cat out of the bag, I guess. So I'm having one of those wonderful life experiences in May of remarrying after losing a wife of 52 years and finding another love in my life. So the whole perspective of life has changed. It just continues to get better and better. And so even though I love cars and I love my job in philanthropy at the hospital, it's a different year for sure.
Well, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. It's just tremendous. And your bride is such a wonderful woman. I've had the pleasure of meeting her many times. I'm going to see her at the La Jolla Concours. So I couldn't be happier for you, my friend, that this new transition in life is happening for you. And she's also kind of a car gal. So that's cool too, right?
Absolutely. Would there be any other kind?
That's for sure. Well, let me give you a little introduction for folks that are maybe newer listeners that haven't heard your past shows. And if you haven't, you go back to the Cars Yeah website and listen to my talk with Wayne. We talk a lot about the Ironstone Concours, Pebble Beach Concours, and others. Of course, today our focus is La Jolla Concours, so here we go. Wayne Craig is the president of Lodi Memorial Hospital Foundation. His career has included teaching, commercial real estate development. He's a longtime volunteer for a variety of automotive organizations and has built a team of docents to offer informed tours for special guests and others at the many Concours events he takes part of. He is the chief docent and on the car sourcing committee at the La Jolla Concours d'Elegance. He's the docent chair at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, chief docent at the Hillsborough Concours and Hagerty Junior Judges Leader, and race car chair and board member, Ironstone Concours, and a Blackhawk Museum docent as well, and a photojournalist for various publications and Concours programs. I don't know how this guy does all this, but he knows how to pack a lot into his life. We'll be back in a moment to speak with Wayne more, but first a word from our sponsors, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Buckle up. Years ago, when it was time to renew my collector car insurance policy, my carrier's rates went up. Way up, but my usage was the same and I never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. So what's with that? So I turned to American Collectors Insurance. Has your collector car insurance recently raised your rates for no good reason? Tired of paying an annual membership fee? Then it's time to look around and call American Collectors Insurance. I shopped around, I asked friends for recommendations, and found a winner that I can trust. And boy, I'm glad I did. I saved hundreds of dollars every year and slept better at night knowing my baby was properly insured. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting vehicles since 1976. They provided me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by their history of taking great care of their clients. What could be better than that? So give them a call and ask for a quote today. 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love like I did with American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Are you wondering what your collector car is worth these days? Are you thinking about buying a collector car? I know who can help. My friends at Classic.com will help you stay on top of the market so you know which similar vehicles are out there, what they're selling for, what you should pay, and how to price your vehicle. Go to Classic.com/garage, enter your vehicle's information, specs including the year, make, model, mileage, and options, and they will provide you with a list of recent comparable sales. Their powerful search engine is up to date, finding new listings, tracking sales, and keeping you informed, providing data so you can make the right decision. If you're selling a vehicle, they can help as well with their Classic.com Pro Division, steering you to a qualified professional who will help. Finding the right vehicle and selling your vehicle is all about timing and exposure. So what are you waiting for? Go to Classic.com/garage and give it a run. That's Classic.com/garage and tell them Mark sent you. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. So Wayne, we are back. So what I want to talk about first here before we get into the La Jolla Concours is the role as a docent. Most of us who attend museums know of docents. They take you around. They bring you a deeper, richer experience in a museum. But I want you to talk more about why you got involved as a docent for the many Concours events that you take part of, what it means, and how people can benefit from knowing a guy like you.
Well, maybe I should just do a brief history mark of how this whole thing evolved, because it wasn't certainly a game plan. I had a major auto accident which stopped me from sailing after 50 years, and I was always into cars. And so I kind of left the water and went back on the asphalt and decided, I need to be deeply involved, but I couldn't drive cars fast because of the aftermath. And so I ended up going through training at the Black Hawk Museum to become a museum docent. And I did that for a while, and then kind of just honestly got bored with being in the same building with the same cars. And so I came up with this idea of, if people like to hear about cars here, maybe they would at car shows. And of course, Concours d'Elegances are period correct cars, and you want to relate all of that history and technology and cultural impact. And so I put a group together, and I called a few Concours directors, and lo and behold, it got traction. And I started doing it for a variety of regional concours. And then the big change was I got a call from Pebble Beach, and they wanted to establish a program there as well. And then when I got involved with La Jolla, they too thought it would be a value add or an enhancement for their sponsors and their sponsor guests. So what we've done is I've assembled a team of very, very well-informed, educated, and experienced docents, basically field tour guides. And what we do is we take special guests around and download them on the cars. And we know a lot of the owners. We know a lot of the cars from various shows over the years. And we do a heck of a lot of research to really understand the unique things about those cars. And it kind of enhances the guest day. They can walk away and quote one thing that we've said. We know that their day has been enhanced because they have a deeper appreciation of what they're looking at. I mean, some people come to a show and they like the color and shape of a car and they know nothing else. We're not talking engine size or that kind of technology. What we talk about mostly is the human interest stuff, who owned it, why it's important, rarity, the owners. Some of the owners are as much as important as the vehicle themselves. And so it's a fascinating hobby. And it's become kind of a semi-profession because we do it so often at so many events, and it's always rewarding.
Well, it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I want to touch on something that I think is very important, and that is the younger people being more involved in this hobby. And I've spoken about this on Cars Yeah many, many times, and one of the ways that you've done that is you're part of the Hagerty Junior Judges Leader and that's bringing a group of young people in, walking them around, showing them shows and cars. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why it's so important in your mind?
Well, absolutely. I mean, a lot of us of my generation grew up with cars during the sort of second round. I mean, the Olympic era of cars was in the 30s when cars sort of reached their peak of design and technology for the period. And they were only owned by the wealthiest people, and they were just beautiful to look at. So they were popular, and they sort of created technology for pedestrian cars that the rest of us ended up buying. But what's happened in recent years is that technology has become very generic. And I mean, a lot of the modern cars look the same, they act the same, they drive the same. In fact, they drive themselves. And so kids of this generation and maybe the one more behind that one have not had an experience with cars or have an interest that we did growing up. And so what all of us in the hobby are trying to do is to create opportunities to engage the youth to really understand the value of the automobile, not only in daily life, but, you know, in the evolution of the culture. And it's amazing. You get a young person, get a time to give them attention, and they love it. And it's a very good day. When we do the Hagerty Junior Judges, we call it a Junior Judges program, but in my mind, it's really a collector car orientation program where we just get the kids fired up, and we have them select their choice of a car, and we have them tell us why that car is important. And so at the end of the day, after spending a day with them on the field, they've advanced their knowledge a little bit, but they've really advanced their enthusiasm. And I've had them come up years later and say, you know, I remember when I went around, and ever since then I've been doing this, this, and this, and I'm buying my first car next year. So it's exciting to keep that thing rolling.
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful what you're doing there. And one of the events that you're also, and you mentioned earlier, you like race cars, and I know you do, just like I do, is the Ironstone Concours. And I wanted you to touch on that Concours a little bit because you introduced me to that Concours. You brought me to that event. You put me in some cars. I got to go on a tour. We got to drive in race cars on a little track during the Concours, which is something that nobody else does. Old race cars. Could you talk a little bit about why you love race cars so much, and you're part of the race car chair there, and also, of course, the Ironstone event? Because I want people to know about this event because I didn't know anything about it until you introduced me, and it's just spectacular.
Well, thank you, Mark. And I want to get the focus back on La Jolla here in a minute.
We will.
I will take this opportunity to talk about Ironstone. It's sort of my local event. It's close to where I live. Very uniquely, we have the Ragtime Racers. It's the only Concours d'Elegance that they appear at. They go to Indy, they go to Chattanooga, they go to Cincinnati, they go all over the place giving race demonstrations and sometimes actually racing these pre-1920 race cars. These are the authentic race cars that raced like at the first Indy 500 and the Vanderbilt Cup and some of the early races in the U.S. And these are fantastic cars, all original machinery. And there's a group of about 25 owners across the country that participate in this. And it's fantastic to see them all in one place. And there are sometimes opportunities to ride in them. They sound different. They smell different. They act different, but they are fascinating. And at 50 miles an hour in that car, you might as well be doing 150 in a McLaren. It's amazing the sensation you get, as you well know, because you rode back in one with the wheels wobbling. But yeah, so we are going to heavily feature the Ragtime Racers this year at Ironstone, again, because that's the only Concours they appear at, and we've prepared a racetrack for them for demonstration races. But we've tried to get them to La Jolla, but La Jolla's venue is not really set up for that, and they're all about motion. I mean, the cars are lovely to look at, fascinating to see the mechanics and the owners who dress in period costume, but you really want to see these cars moving. And at La Jolla, we just don't have that opportunity.
When does the Ironstone Concours take place?
September 23rd this year. That's a Saturday Concours, which is unique again. And there's a Friday tour of the Gold Country and then a nice dinner, a Cars and Stars dinner. And we will have another featured guest this year. I'm trying to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Le Mans. but we're struggling to get authentic Le Mans race cars there, and so we're working on some other things as well. But that show is always sort of ends the season, and it's a lovely show. But we love to start the season really with I know there's the Arizona Concours now in January. That's come back, but really in my mind, the La Jolla Concours is the one to focus on. It's such a high quality show.
Nice segue there. So let's get on with La Jolla. So you'll be walking around the lawn at La Jolla. And of course, for you listeners that have never attended, and you've got to go, it's just such a wonderful event. It's at the Ellen Browning Scripps Park. It's kind of a mini Pebble Beach type setting because it sits up on the cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean and all the way up the coast north from La Jolla Shores to Blacks to Del Mar and beyond. And I want to talk about the many events, and we'll start with the Friday VIP party. And you can buy tickets to all these different events. You can attend different events, whatever you want to do, but that's kind of the kickoff, right?
That's the kickoff, and it's always incredible. I mean, it's over the top kind of spectacle. I mean, you'll see characters riding around on 7-foot bicycles with 10 umbrellas around them. There's usually almost Cirque du Soleil type characters there. There's a steampunk bar with the mechanics are just amazing. It's just a fantastic show. They really, go over the top with that one. People dress for it, which is kind of fun. And it is going to be at the La Jolla Cove again this year, which is fun. It hasn't been there for a few years. So that's Friday night. Then Saturday is the tour. And the tour is remarkable because we go to 2 private collections in the San Diego area, and we end up having lunch literally on the sand at the La Jolla Shores Club. And it's just a great way to visit with everybody. We usually have some guest speakers during the tour and a little break. And then Saturday night, there'll be the Porsches on Prospect. I don't know how many Porsches are coming, but they're going to be parked on Prospect Avenue, and there'll be a few receptions around that you can attend. And then, of course, Sunday is the Concours itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things, and there's different levels. You can go to the website, lajollaconcours.com, and see all the different ticket options and activity options. Of course, I'm going to love the Porsches on Prospect because, as you know, I love Porsches. So that last year it was the Ferraris on Prospect, and they had all of Prospect Street, which is kind of the main drag right through the center of La Jolla up above the water. And they had so many, they had to put them on some side streets as well. And that's free, so people can just go and enjoy. There's wonderful restaurants. If you're going to be there, make your reservations now because there's usually a lot of people there and it's really spectacular. And of course, one of the things I also wanted to touch on today was many, if not all, the Concours events that happen across the world are about raising money for charity. And this Concours raises money for the La Jolla Historical Society, right?
That's correct, yeah. And they do a lot more than what you think. Most historical societies you think of as being a museum where they have some old prints and honor some founders of the culture of the area, but that particular historical society is very active. They're just finishing their, I think it's called the Secret Garden Tour, and they do scholarships and they do training, and it's an active organization. So happy to support that. And that is the beauty of what we all do in this hobby industry, is that almost every Concours we're associated with supports some charity. Surprisingly to many, Pebble Beach, gets a reputation of being elegant and expensive and, international and all of these kinds of stereotypes. But last year they gave away $2.8 million to 80 charities in the local area. And so this is important work.
It really is. Let's talk a little bit about the cars that people can expect to see this year at La Jolla Concours. And I'm going to start with the biggies. There's going to be, what I hear, probably the biggest collection of Duesenbergs in one place at the La Jolla Concours this year. Is that true?
Well, we think we're inching up on that. There was an event years ago at the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum where they had, I think, over 40 Duesenbergs gathered, plus some Auburns and Cords. But that was more of a gathering. This is a Concours where they'll actually be judged. And so at this point, I believe we have 14, and we're probably going to be north of that by the time we're done. We are inviting, and I may be jumping your agenda here, Mark, but I'll just say it. We've invited Randy Ema to come down, and we're going to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award for his work with Duesenberg. Most people have heard of Randy, but Randy is a very, very special guy in the sense that he of the 481 J. Duesenbergs that were ever built, there are 300 and something left. He has touched or restored all except for 2 of them. And he owns the original drawings from Fred and Augie Duesenberg, 58,000 of those drawings and sales reports. He's got their furniture, their chandeliers. He is Mr. Duesenberg. And so we're very excited to honor him and have him down there and also have him tell us about the cars. One time I was at a Gooding auction with him, and we were looking at a Duesenberg, and he didn't say very much. And all of a sudden he reached under the fender and was rubbing under the fender. And I said, "Randy, what are you doing?" And he says, "Yeah, this car, it's the car I thought. It's not really such and such, but it's such and such, and so bought it and gave it to so-and-so because they discovered this." I mean, he knows every inch of those cars, and it's just fascinating to be there and be with that level of expert and just hear those things. So from a Docent perspective, it was gold, you know.
Well, no kidding. And Randy's been a past guest here thanks to you, Wayne. You introduced me to Randy and referred him here to Cars Yeah. He was a guest back in September of 2021, I believe, and he's one of these guys that I could have done 100 shows with him. His knowledge is so deep, and very proud that he's going to get this well-deserved award at this event. But for those of you listeners that have never been in front of a Duesenberg, or much less what we're going to see at La Jolla, a lineup of these cars, this is going to be incredible because the history behind each one, and I encourage you, if you attend the event, and I hope you're there with Wayne and I and the other guests that are on this week here on Cars Yeah, is you go up to the owners and ask them about the cars, because there's so much more than just the car itself, the history of these cars and who owns them. Even one of them that'll be at the show was owned by Mr. Bojangles himself, which is pretty cool, Fatty Arbuckle, which is neat. So it's the history that these cars and the people around them that make this entire event so special. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, kind of connecting the dots with my interest in race cars. In that era, you know, in the late 20s, early 30s, most cars had 70, 80, 90 horsepower. And, you know, they were roadworthy cars. Duesenbergs had between 120 and 320 horsepower and would do 130 miles an hour. It was, you know, it's the shape of a brick. It's elegant. It's refined. Everything is just machined to the nth degree, but it's also a performance car, which is surprising. And so, interestingly enough, we are getting 4 automobiles from the Auburn Court Duesenberg Museum, including Duesenberg number 1, which I was fortunate enough to watch be restored by Bruce Canepa. Jimmy Castle owned that car because his, I believe, grandfather was the original financier of Duesenberg. And so when the first road car came off of the line, they gave it to him, and it was in the family forever. And then they restored it, and now that's been donated to the museum. So that car will also be on the field.
Wow. And we know Bruce does some magnificent restoration work, so that will be spectacular. What are some of the other cars that people can expect to see?
Oh gosh, we have a Mercedes class that's always over the top. You know, a lot of gold wings and some other cars. We think we're going to have at least one 540K special roadster. You know, there's only a handful of those left. And actually, one of my favorite cars, the first time I was on your show, you asked me what my favorite car was, and that's it. We'll have some race cars. We have lots of Porsches, of course. Always, this is the 75th anniversary of Porsche, but we're not really emphasizing that as much as the Duesenberg. And you know, lots of very high quality domestic cars. So there's several classes, and the judging is really, really precise and thorough. Nigel Matthews is our chief judge. I know you're going to have him on as a guest again. Nigel is a judge extraordinaire. He's a senior VP for Hagerty, and he actually gets invited to India to do the 21-gun salute, Concours, and on and on and on. So the judging is very high quality at La Jolla, which brings out high quality cars.
Absolutely. And Nigel, who was actually our guest yesterday on Cars, he also talked about his new role at IC Jag that he took over from Ed Gilbertson and the new ways that they're using that. And when he was in India, which is very odd that I was in India at the same time. In fact, we were at the same hotel. We didn't know it at the time until he'd left.
Amazing.
Yeah. It was just small world that the car world is. But he told us that IC Jag's, their technique is being altered a little bit, and they tested it at the show in India, the 21 gun salute. And they're going to be doing that again at La Jolla, where instead of a 100-point program, they're going to do a 95-point. And then the last 5 points are up to the judge to use their discretion, a little bit more subjective, or their knowledge about the car that could push it over the top. So he shared some of that on yesterday's show. If you listeners didn't catch it, go back and find that show on the Cars website. So
it's interesting, if I can interrupt, Mark, it's interesting you mentioned the IC Jag program, because I get invited to their breakfast at Pebble Beach every year and get to meet these international judges. And they are incredibly focused on making sure that the judging is fair and equitable around the world, and also to try to standardize, some of the judging, because you can go to 10 Concours and get 12 different forms of judging. I mean, there's no consistency. And so I'm very happy that organization is making strides and having an influence.
Yeah. Ed Gilbertson, of course, has just been in the car world forever, and what he did and how he started that and how it will carry forward the legacy of that with Nigel, and then there'll be people after him that will take it over. I think it makes things much more fair and reasonable. There's always going to be contradictions when it comes to judging cars and people's opinions, but these groups of people, including the docents like yourself and the others, are fantastic. And of course, this Thursday, I'm going to have Bruce Jr. on the show that you introduced me to, and Bruce will be talking about his role as a docent, his time with Carol Shelby. You know a lot of people, my friend.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you get old.
Well, thank goodness. Getting old is a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to touch before I let you go today on a couple things that you like personally. Is there a car that's going to be showing up at La Jolla that you're really excited to see?
Well, I already mentioned the 540K Special Roadster. If that shows, that would be excellent. I do love the Duesenbergs. I absolutely love them. I'm fascinated every time I see one, especially when you open the hood and see all the moving parts that are perfect. John Deere green and polished nickel, and it's just a beautiful piece of machinery. The car that I do hope shows up in the Porsche class, which is my second favorite car in the world, and the first time we talked together on your show, I almost made that my preferred car if I could only have one car in the world, and that's the Porsche 959. I still think that is the iconic Porsche because of the rapid advancement of technology for the Group B racing that never happened. And those cars, of course, have become remarkably valuable, but performance-wise, a 959 can match almost anything on the road these days. It's amazing. So love those Porsches.
Well, when my big lottery numbers hit, which I'm sure that's going to be any day now, although it seems like it's not really happened much over the years, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy you a Canepa SC 959, because for you listeners that missed my last talk with Bruce, he takes that iconic car and you think, how could you make it better? And of course, Bruce knows how to make everything better. So he takes that and makes the Canepa SC, which is just, it takes it to an entirely different level. So keep your fingers crossed that $2 I waste at the grocery store every once in a while hits one of these days, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. No, he brings them in at this factory 450 horsepower, and they go out pretty close to 700 horsepower, and it all goes to the ground in that car because of the technology. So we were fortunate to have the prototype at the Blackhawk Auto Museum for a number of years, and to look at the simple refinements they did from that prototype all the way through production is amazing, because normally a prototype will be radically different than what hits the road. So one of these days, maybe there'll be 959s in heaven, Mark.
Well, there you go. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I think whatever you want is going to be in heaven. It'll be pretty special. How about great reading? I love to share books here, and all my guests recommend some wonderful books. Is there one you could share?
Well, obviously, I read a lot of car books, and I enjoy that because of, just building up that knowledge and understanding how things work. But a book that has really hit my soul in the last year, and in fact, I'm going to have the benefit of meeting the author in April, is the Mr. Thank You Project. And I don't know if you've heard of that book, but it's a gentleman who ended up doing 5 thank you cards a day for 365 days. And it's all about the experiences that came out of doing that, what he discovered about himself, about life, other people, how he changed lives. And obviously, I'm in the philanthropy world running a hospital foundation. We care about people. I do a social media posting called Thankful Thursday on our social media site, and we express forms of gratitude. But this book really took it to a different level. So I would encourage people to read the Mr. Thank You Project.
Now, why would I not know about that book? I'm very intrigued because as all my guests know, I send all my guests a written thank you note. I'm very big on writing thank you notes. And I think my mom for that, she really emphasized that gratitude practice in my sister and I. And when we were little kids, we had to write our Christmas thank you notes before we could play with our toys. And
wow,
I used to not like that when I was a kid, but now I have realized throughout my life the importance of gratitude and the fact that, and I'll have a lot in common because writing thank you notes to people have brought back so many positive things into my life. So I'll have to get a copy of that. I appreciate that. No one has recommended that book. So that's by John Israel as I peek ahead here at the Amazon bookstore. So
that's correct. Yeah.
Well, very cool.
No, it's a very simple read and interesting, and you can read it sort of in sound bites and not get buried into it. But it's also something you ought to try at least partially in your life. And like you said, Mark, sending thank you notes change your whole opinion about things and about people and about activities, and it takes the focus off of us and puts it on them, and that's a whole different world. So
I appreciate you sharing that. So I always share or enable, I should say, my guests to go on the ultimate drive. I'm going to twist it up a little bit with you because I'll tell you, listeners, Wayne has enabled me to go on several ultimate drives, and I'm forever grateful for that. He got me in the seat of, I believe it was a 1917 car at the Ironstone Concours. He got me in the seat of a Bentley that you and I drove around La Jolla in that your friend had, and you even went so far as to put smocks on us as the Bentley boys, which was just tremendous. So if I enabled you to go on an ultimate drive at the La Jolla Concours, and you may be attending the tour, you can share that. What would it look like for you? What kind of car would you like to be in?
Well, last year I did it in a Rolls Royce, which was interesting. It was very comfortable and sort of quiet and calm. Of course, we did it in the 27 Bentley 3-liter, and we looked like a bunch of doctors in those smocks, and that was fun. It was a great experience. A friend of mine, who unfortunately is not faring well, had a huge car collection of hypercars, got the first P1 McLaren in. He's got everything. He still has a Ferrari Enzo that he's owned since day one. The only orange Enzo I think ever made, because he owned Orange County Ferrari. But I would love to borrow that car and go on that tour with that car. Now, unfortunately, the tour is not a rally or a high-speed drive. It's beautiful drive, and we end up looking at these collections, but it would still just be fun to be in that powerful of a car and hear that sound for half a day, So.
Yeah, that would be cool. I've seen that car. And of course, I love orange because I had my orange crush, my turbo, for many, many years. And I still love that color. But yeah, I remember seeing that Ferrari Enzo in orange. I think I saw it at the Concorso Italiano event in one of the years, but I didn't know that belonged to a friend of yours. That would be very cool. But
you absolutely did. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool, actually, to even be in that car just driving around in the tour, because slowing it down a little bit, easy to go fast in a Ferrari Enzo. I did get to drive one once, and I was blown away by how frightening that car was, how lightning fast. It's an F1 car under wraps, but that would be pretty darn cool. Are you going to be on the tour this year at La Jolla Concours?
I will definitely be on the tour. I'm not sure what car I'm going to be in yet. We're still talking about that, and we'll figure out something fun. I'll have my fiance of 1 week left before we get married, and a couple of friends are coming down from Lodi, and I've got a new docent that lives in that area that we met in Hawaii and is now a docent for us there, as well as Pebble, and so they're bringing a special car. So I'm just not sure what I'm going to end up in yet. May have to Uber,
Well, as tall as you are, it needs to either be a larger car or a convertible, I think. So, but no doubt you're going to have some fun.
Now wait a minute. Wait a minute, Mark. I drive a Mini. So.
But we had 2 Mini Coopers that we bought for my daughter, and I drove in that car from here in Gig Harbor down to University of Redlands many times with her, and I was shocked at how much room. Now, I'm not nearly as tall as you, but how much room is in a Mini Cooper. I mean, you can be 6'5" and no problem.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have my seat all the way back, and I'm 6'4".
There you go. See? So there's even more room. Well, you've taken us on another wonderful tour here, and I can't thank you enough for doing a pit stop with me today and sharing the La Jolla Concours with me. Before I let you go, could you maybe share some parting words of why a listener out there who's not attended must go to the La Jolla Concours?
Well, I think it's a very rare opportunity to see one of the highest quality shows out there. You're going to see an array of automobiles that you'll rarely get to see in one setting anywhere else. The people are extremely friendly, and you have an opportunity to experience a lovely setting and a beautiful area. And so come down, spend the weekend, do some fun things in the San Diego area, but come to the show and you will be amazed at what you see. And I think you'll end up coming back. So hope to see everybody there in April.
Absolutely. Wayne will be there. I'll be there. All my guests this week will be there. Come up and say hello to us. I cannot wait for April to come. That's April 21st, 22nd, 23rd in La Jolla, California. You can get your tickets right now. Go to lajollaconcours.com because some of the events, the special events, they do sell out. So get your tickets now, get your airline tickets now, and join us at the beautiful La Jolla Concours. Wayne, thanks again for being so generous. Thanks for being such a great pal, and congratulations on your upcoming wedding. I'm so thrilled for you and your bride. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you at the La Jolla Concours.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
It's always fun. If you're listening to this program, there's a pretty good chance you believe what I believe, that the collector vehicles we love are more than just a means of getting from one place to the other. They're a part of our culture, our identity, and as a people, they bring us together at vintage races, classic car auctions, and 1,000-mile rallies. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these important vehicles aren't lost to time. RPM stands for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, and their goal is to inspire the next generation of vehicle restoration professionals through its outreach programs. And they include Shop Hop, Off to the Races, the RPM Future Class, and many others. These programs engage talented young people across the country and connect them with mentors and a variety of opportunities in the industry. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of collector vehicles skilled trade, visit rpm.foundation today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.